Hi, you're on the This Is Crime channel. I'm Matilda. Listen to my new story. 53 Days. The Kidnapping of Mary Stouffer. This story will be further proof that if you encounter an inadequate person on your way, it won't save you that you don't wear black tights, miniskirts. It will prove that the trigger for an unhealthy person can be any action or inaction you take. Mary and Irv Stouffer were a strong family built on faith in God and the sacred bonds of marriage. Irv graduated from seminary and was a minister in a Baptist church. Immediately after their marriage, they began traveling the world for missionary purposes. When the couple lived in Minneapolis, Mary began teaching math at a local school. 2 years later, the family moved to Nebraska, where Irv was appointed pastor of the local Baptist church. They were not supposed to stay long in this place, but the couple had a daughter, Elizabeth, and the parents decided not to change their residence until her 5th birthday. In 1975, they moved to the Philippines, where they did missionary work for 5 years. There, their son Steve was born to them. In early 1980, the couple returned to America for a short time. Then, they again faced a long overseas mission trip. On May 16, 1980, the whole family was busy packing for the move. The 36-year-old Mary scheduled her day literally to the minute in order to have everything in time. In the morning, she brought her 6-year-old son to the beauty parlor for a haircut. In the afternoon, her daughter Elizabeth was scheduled for a haircut, but Mary and her daughter did not return home from the salon. Irv waited half a day for his wife, and when she didn't arrive for dinner, he began to sound the alarm. The first thing he did was call the salon, where he was told by the receptionist that his wife and daughter had left in their car after getting haircuts. She hadn't noticed anything unusual. After that, the entire Baptist community started calling hospitals and friends, but Mary and Elizabeth were nowhere to be found, and no one had seen them. Irv contacted the police, but was told the standard, "Wait." When the disturbed man insisted that the police come, they sent detectives to him, who first suspected him of being responsible for the disappearance of his family. And so all hell broke loose for Irv. Not only were his wife and daughter missing, but he became the prime suspect. He was constantly questioned and even sent for a polygraph, but there was no serious investigation into the case. At the time, 6-year-old Jason Wilkman went missing. The boy was playing in the street with his friend when a car pulled up to them. A man got out of it and grabbed Jason and put him in the trunk. The Metropolitan Police dealt with the high-profile case. A sketch of the kidnapper was drawn up. In the morning, while combing the park where the boy went missing, detectives found the license plates from the car. They belonged to Mary Stouffer's car. After comparing all the facts, the police merged the two cases into one. People began to look askance at Irv. This was aided by the fact that in the press, his picture was printed next to a sketch of the alleged perpetrator. Both wore glasses. So many people began to find similarities. The search came to a dead end. More than a month passed. May 21st in the U.S. celebrated Father's Day, and in the house, Stouffer sounded a call. Picking up the phone, Irv heard his missing daughter Elizabeth, who congratulated him on the holiday, but refused to answer questions. A short time later, Irv received a letter written by Mary. She wrote that she was simply tired and decided to escape from the hardships of family life. Then came another letter in which Mary asked him to stop looking for her, otherwise the irreparable would happen. During this time, the unfortunate Irv had to go several times to identify the found women. Each time the man entered the station, his heart sank, and he asked God that it was not his wife. 53 days passed. On July 7, 1980, the police station received a call. On the other end, a woman reported that she and her daughter had been kidnapped and gave the address where a car should be sent. Arriving at the address, the police found Mary and Beth bound. During those 7.5 weeks, I had so many fears and concerns. We didn't know if we would ever see them again. It was very difficult. Faith was all I could rely on. I trusted that God would watch over them and keep them under his wing. That's how a joyful Irv commented as he hugged his wife and daughter. The detectives began their questioning and asked the big question, "Where is missing 6-year-old Jason?" Mary then proceeded to recount her misadventures. Mary and her daughter walked out of the salon after getting a haircut and walked to their car. A man in his 30s with dark glasses approached them. I wondered if he just wanted to ask directions to somewhere. He had a gun in his waistband. He put it next to Beth and said, "I need you to give me a ride." I was ready to give him my car keys. The man got in the car and made Mary drive north first. The woman said she tried to connect with him and kept asking how to help him. She said they believed in God and that they were good people. But what she heard in response was, "Shut up and step on the gas." I was scared mostly because we just didn't understand what was happening. I wasn't able to realize what had happened. We didn't know who the man was or what he wanted. The car drove to a deserted parking lot near the park, where the man moved into his van, and Mary and Elizabeth were tied up and stuffed into the trunk. Right on top of them, he placed a huge spare tire. It was a wild ride. I tried to talk to the boy, but he was too scared to say anything other than his name and age. Jason wouldn't stop crying and said he had to go home because he had to visit his grandmother that weekend. The next time the car stopped, the driver pulled the boy out of the trunk, and Mary never saw him again. We felt him grab Jason and pull him out. The man was gone for a long time, and Jason never came back. The car then looped around for a while and eventually came to a house that was 9 kilometers from where Mary and her family lived. After taking the captives into the house, the man put them in a closet 121 centimeters long and 53 centimeters wide. This closet had obviously been prepared especially for us, because there were no clothes hanging there, a few blankets and plastic bags on a shelf, a light bulb hanging on a chain, a rug, and 2 small pillows on the floor. The next day, a man brought Mary out of the closet and told her that he was her former student, Ming Sen-shi. Ming accused Mary of giving him a final grade of 4 when she taught him math, which ruined his high school diploma. Because of this, he couldn't go to college and had to join the army, where he was sent to the Vietnam War and ended up in a POW camp. He admitted that he had been following Mary the whole time and trying to kidnap her. A couple of years ago, Mary's relatives were attacked, and Ming said it was his doing. He wanted to know where the woman was now. He also admitted that he had been to their home many times and had even tried to drill holes from the basement into the bedroom to watch Mary. I asked, "What are you going to do?" That's when he started to take off his pants, pulled his t-shirt over his head, and said, "I think you've already guessed it. I don't want to leave physical scars. I want them to be emotional. I want you to feel dirty and humiliated." Ming recorded all of his actions on camera. That day, the recording lasted 6 hours. Every day he retaliated against Mary in a similar manner. Mary did not break down and kept telling herself that this was all happening to her body, but not her soul. Most of all, she was worried about her daughter and was afraid that their jailer would switch to her. Thankfully, that didn't happen. He needed Elizabeth to force Mary to fulfill his every desire. Eventually, simply submitting to Ming wasn't enough, and he began to demand that Mary herself show desire for him. Mary refused and said she would remain faithful to her husband. That's when the man took a plastic bag and headed for Elizabeth. He placed it over her head and didn't take it off until Mary came over and kissed him. By his submission, Mary managed to put Ming's guard down and he relaxed his control. On the 10th day, he allowed them to bathe. Then he started arranging dinners and trips together. He wanted Mary and Elizabeth to treat him like family. The captives were afraid to escape. People asked me many times, "Why didn't you run away?" The only thing that was certain was that if my mom ran away, he would finish me, and if I ran away, he would finish my mom. Elizabeth recounted. There were times when Ming would take Mary and Elizabeth out to shopping malls to buy clothes. The woman there used her card to pay and hoped that through this, the police would be able to figure out where they were. But unfortunately, the investigators did not think to check this option. There was a situation where Mary stayed locked in the car while Ming and Elizabeth went shopping. Mary asked passing teenagers to call the police, but they laughed and walked on by. And so came their 53rd day in confinement. Ming went to work. He had his own electronics store. Mary was always on the lookout for a way to escape, but Ming always locked them in the closet when he left the house. On this day, Mary noticed a hinge in the door and realized that it could be unscrewed. Attached to this loop was a cable by which the woman and her daughter were bound. Mary managed to pull the rod out of the loop and free herself. A short time later, she found a dry cleaning tag that had the exact address of Ming's house on it. The woman was able to call the police and dictate the address to them. They were tied up, but what a joy to see them alive. What an exciting, happy day for our family. So who is this Ming Sen-shi? From childhood, he was considered cruel, and his mother called him insensitive. As a teenager, he was often sent to compulsory treatment. Mary herself hardly remembered him and said he never gave her any trouble at school. But he was obsessed with her. What he told Mary about Four and a screwed-up fate turned out to be untrue. He wasn't in the army either. Through his deception, he wanted to make Mary feel guilty and sorry for him, thus gaining her favor. Ming followed the Stouffer family all the time and never stopped following them. Mary assumes that their next move abroad was the impetus for him to commit the crime. Ming Sen-shi was sentenced to life in prison. The main evidence was video footage from 53 days of captivity. During the trial, he made several attempts to get to Mary. First, he offered $50,000 to his cellmate for taking her life. And then, there were 2 attempts in the courtroom. The second time, he was able to attack Mary in court with a knife, and she got 62 stitches. How he managed to sneak the knife remains a mystery. Ming currently sits in jail and periodically petitions for parole. He has been consistently denied. Mary and Elizabeth have fully recovered and are living a happy life. If you like this story, subscribe to the channel and put a thumbs up. Look forward to more stories from the team of our channel. This is Criminal.